and some things that we'll also be thinking about in addition to this core budget next fiscal year. But my theme for this one was small steps but big projects, and I think we've done a very good job of sticking to the 3% I gave you. So across the board, good job. I know that sometimes it's hard to stick to the 3% depending on what's going on with your departments, but I think as an overall goal, everybody hung in there, and I think you're going to see the results here. If you haven't gone through it completely already, it's a solid budget. First off, you'll notice that because we took care of some big ticket items last year, the overall budget is slightly less this year overall, year over year. Last year was a total of about $43 million. This year, because of some things that we finished and some things we're going to be putting in other places, this budget, it's down to 39.9 overall. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I think the main themes for the budget beyond kind of the normal everyday line items that you watch over, we are using this budget to invest in infrastructure in the county, including both roads and the natural gas line proposed for Smith Mills. So that'll help county residents. We're investing in training and potential volunteers for volunteer fire departments, improving their pipeline. We're investing in IT security, which becomes a bigger problem every year. We are definitely investing in our people with pay raises and benefit enhancements for our team members. And there's one thing I could accomplish every year was to make sure we take care of our people. And we're also going to be adding a position in codes department, and I'm proposing that, and we'll be talking about that in a moment. We're also setting ourselves up to have capacity for some really expensive projects that are coming up that we're going to handle a different way this year, and I'll explain that in a moment. But I figured we would start, if you'd all begin with revenue. The appropriations is about halfway through this packet. This is the new budget, the draft budget. So go to revenue, and let me talk about that first. And there are a couple big changes in revenue this year, but they're good. They're not bad. So if you go to first page, general fund revenue. General fund revenue. Everybody there? Looks like this. General fund revenue, first page of general fund revenue. The top line should be real property. Everybody there yet? And by the way, this one.
Okay, thank you.
The current to-date budget is here, by the way, if you want to do some comparison while we go. But we'll start with revenues. And as you probably know by now, when we estimate revenues, it's usually one of two things. It's year-over-year performance, taking what we're doing the current year, where the trends are, and trying to peg a conservative number for the new year, and then take into account anything unusual that's going on or any unexpected revenues that look like they may be coming down the line and account for them. But overall, going down real property, we continue to hit at about anywhere between 3.35 and 3.5, depending on the year. It's been solid. So again, budgeting conservatively with real property, one of kind of our three main stools of our three-legged stool. We plugged in 3.5, and again, as the numbers go down, you'll see that's kind of based on performance. The occupational tax, again, kicking that up a little bit to account for some things we want to spend money on the other side of the ledger, which we'll get to. It's a very conservative number, even at 3.4. It trends higher than that lately, but trying to be smart with that. The big difference is we're cutting our insurance premium tax in half. Current year insurance premium tax is almost at $4 million now. Insurance premiums are going up across the country, as you know, I'm sure in your own experience, but that will bring in $2 million estimated this next year because of the 50% cut. Go down to the sheriff's pooling, county clerk pooling. You guys have done a great job. Continue to be as efficient as possible, and I appreciate that. And we bumped yours up a little bit. We got to counterbalance that $2 million a little bit in some ways. And then flipping the page, the other thing we've had good experience with, because our reserve is high enough, we've had very good interest income. That fluctuates. You know, the next Fed chair could change interest rates. You never know, but we've trended well enough that bumping that from 750 to a little over 1 is not a problem for me. I'm very comfortable with that. And so you'll see that the bottom line revenues, the above line revenues are just slightly less overall, counterbalancing the $2 million we're losing in insurance premium tax with some of the additions to the other line items. We come close to balancing it. The carryover will be $614,000 just to make it meet. And the transfer out, I'm going to talk about that in a second, but one of the ways that we're going to be able to use coal severance funding to help balance the general fund is by having less transfer out. And if you know what that means, we subsidize out of the general fund both the road department and the LGEA fund. And in the past years, that number you could see, previous year was 4.58, 4.579 or higher. And we have to hold that money back to make sure we can cover any subsidies to the general fund, to the road fund or LGEA that are needed. Nick and Bill Hubiak before him do a great job of budgeting their money and seldom need all that transfer out money, but we have to account for it in our budget. So I will talk more about that change, and it's a positive change, how we can have less transfer out, make the general fund easier to manage. So next page is road fund. Big difference here, and again, this was in consultation with Nick and Brenda. This past year, we plugged into the road fund revenue $2 million Safe Streets grant that Nick got. We're still working on that. We haven't begun to spend it yet, really. So we decided this year, instead of putting it here and really skewing that revenue mark, we're going to put it in federal grants where it makes more sense and spend it out of the federal grants funds. And that also with the $80,000 federal highway grant right underneath it, the grant reimbursement, 80 grand, that's going to go in the state grants fund. So that monies will be incomes and outgoes in the federal and state grants funds. Does that make sense? Those balance because whatever we put on one side of the ledger, we put on the other with grants. So that means that the road fund revenue, you see it drops precipitously from 4.1 down to 1.77, but that's because we moved that 2.08 million out of there, and that 1.776 is a better representation of what actually comes in every year. Among those, you'll notice that the county road aid number went from 1.563, the state dropped that. Thank you, state legislature, down to 1.28. There's another fund, I was talking to Nick about this, the General Assembly did invest a lot of money in what's called the LARP fund, and the state does love its acronyms. But the LARP fund is the Local Assistance Road Program, where they have invested many more millions of dollars to fix roads for counties that apply for the money. And it is to fix the roads that are in the worst shape. And on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, they target 8, 9s, and 10s. We have invested so much money in our roads in the last few years, we don't have any.
I've tried that before. I cannot touch those grants for bridges or roads. Our roads and bridges are so good of a shape that we can't even compete with some of the other counties.
In a good way.
That's why the only thing I've been getting is federal grants, because state grants we can't compete. Ours are nowhere near 8s, 9s, and 10s.
Yeah. So that is a piece of state funding that's really not available to us for a good reason. We've been making our own investments. So you'll see that road fund revenue line item is 1.776. So keep that in mind. We're going to jump to LGEA. Here's the big difference. We've not yet received our quarterly coal severance payment yet. It's due any day now, but looking at the tonnage numbers, and it's based on tonnage mined, they only continue to go up, so we are budgeting $3 million in coal severance revenue for next year, which is a, big deal. And it has to come into the LGEA fund, but there's another line item in the LGEA fund, because the state was smart in how they did this. We can pay for surfacing of roads out of the LGEA fund, so the money that comes in there can be used and will be used in this upcoming budget to pay for 90% of our road work. And that is a big deal, and we can talk more on that when we get to the expenditure side, how that helps us. But the other good news about that is that it also enables the LGEA fund to pay for itself entirely. All the revenue in the LGEA fund will also cover all the expenses in the LGEA fund. In the past, you might know that the general fund had to subsidize the LGEA funds, make up for it in the past, and we do not have to do that now. So that's another way that we can use coal severance to help make up for the $2 million we're losing from the insurance premium tax. Any questions so far? Okay. Flip the page. Bruce prepared the revenue on the jail fund side, and I'm going to let him talk about that because he's the expert.
On the jail, all right, as you can see, the revenue is, we bumped federal prisoners up some, a little bit. We are losing a couple $100,000 because of FCC on the phone service. We made that up, Lori made that up for us. Other than that, it's,
Federal transports.
yeah, federal transport,
Quite good, and federal rates,
Social Security.
revenue.
Interest, like it is. So,
And that potential for increase in revenue from federal inmates is one of the reasons why we're planning this
yeah,
expansion.
got ice to it.
Yep.
So,
Anything else?
that's good, we're good. Anybody got any questions on it?
Heading into state grants. These are all based year over year, the type of grants we typically go for or flow through us. And you'll see that the land and water grant, the $80,000 that was in the road fund last year, is now in this state grants fund. Again, those are all flow-throughs in and out. Flip the page to federal grants. The Safe Streets grant, Nick estimated that of the $2 million we had in there, he's probably going to spend about 1.5 max this year out of that before it lapses into next fiscal year after that. So we put 1.5 in there, and then he announced the $1 million grant he got for federal land access program and to use to fix bridges. That's $1 million. So that will flow through our federal grants fund.
Yep.
The rest, economic development obviously just has interest on its bank accounts, its fund accounts. This is an ongoing revenue for the clerk. She gets permanent storage money from the state to help update their storage. She's been doing it, spending that and upgrading for several years now. And we just put the kind of the year-over-year estimate we do. If you get more than that, that's great. Health insurance, okay. We're budgeting as we always do, 3.1. This budget will once again cover any increase in premiums for employees for the 8th year in a row. We won't find out the exact amount of that increase until the end of the year because they operate on the calendar year, but we are having a solid year with our current health insurance plan this calendar year. We're going to finish in the black, be able to put more back to that reserve. So unless any of the magistrates feel differently, we want to once again cover any health insurance premium increases for our people. And again, operating off a $3.1 million budget, and it's been good so far, 3.15, I should say.
So will that, the program we have out there at the clinic, that stays, well, that's not really insurance?
I'll talk about that in a second. We got it tucked into another lineup, but that'll be covered too. Yep, that's covered too.
Huge.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's going very well.
So basically, for the last 8 years, we hadn't raised our premiums, and we're offering
More features.
more features on them.
More-
Great.
The opioid settlement fund, you guys don't deal much with that, other than, magistrates and Steve Golden and I talked about it, but, we have these ongoing payments now from settlements. They are hit and miss. They don't have a typical schedule. Brenda and I get a little frustrated about when the next one's going to come if we want to, plan any spending, but it should only increase because we keep signing on to settlement agreements. And so we plugged in the same money year over year, but I anticipate it'll be more than that. So let's see, $90,000 in revenue. We are basically done spending ARPA money except for two things. There's about $56,000 left. 38 of that is devoted to the volunteer fire department, a little grant we approved at the last fiscal board meeting or so before that, which will be paid out soon. And any leftover money from that will carry into next year, and we will have one more interest payment at the end of May, so like June 1. So that'll be revenue for ARPA, which we will then have to spend. It'll only end up being a few $1,000s total in the end, so there may be, I don't know, $15,000 or $16,000 or $17,000 in ARPA by July 1, and we can decide how we want to spend that. We did vote at one point to devote it to roads. We're exploring whether we can be a little flexible with that, because $16,000 doesn't go a whole long way in rock, but we can do other things with it if we want to. So I'll check back with you on that when we figure an answer. That's the revenue plan. Anybody have any questions? Again, it adds up, 12 something in the general fund. It's conservative, but I think it's, even with increases, I think it's absolutely reasonable. I have no doubt we can reach it, even with the cut in the insurance premium tax. The coal severance funding, as you know, and if some of you have lived through, it's a wild ride sometimes. There's an active push in the legislature. It happened this year. It will happen again 2 years from now to eliminate coal severance tax.
Yeah.
And, which is interesting because we just got here again. We're just back, doing that. And that will be very controversial, but some powerful forces are trying to make that happen. And it has much more to do about Eastern Kentucky coal field than ours, but they have a hard time doing something for one part of the state, not including the rest. So that'll be an ongoing fight. But for now, we are the beneficiary of what's going on with coal severance. So. All right. Any other questions about revenue? So flip back to the very first page, and we'll start on appropriations. I'll say one more thing. We're the backdrop of that estimate on total revenue is this year's budget, which is trending very accurately on revenue, or well ahead of expectations, and it's always good because I think we do a good job of being conservative both on the spending side and on the revenue side. So, okay. In the general fund, there's going to be a slight drop because we're taking some stuff out. Last year we had a very large contingency fund. The magistrates may remember this. We put money in that contingency to cover both the water district payment of $1.5 million We put 2.5 million also in there in case the Audubon Conference Center project got off the ground, and it really, those two things kind of skewed the normal budget. One of those we took care of, obviously, the Water District. The Audubon State Conference Center is still hanging out there. It's making progress, but we're going to handle it differently this year. So this general fund budget is much more typical of year-over-year stuff. The numbers are much more recognizable versus this year when the contingency was so inflated. So a couple highlights. What I thought I'd do is start off with my line items, just go over each one, and then we'll go to the different departments and you can talk about your line items and what your thoughts were. And we can jump back and forth as we go down the budget. But I'll start with mine. Remember, we were shooting for about 3%, right in there, and as you all know, the constitutional officers' salaries, at least the clerk, the sheriff, and my salary is set by the state. You'll notice there's some differences because Renisa is leaving us, so her successor will make a little bit less because, you know, they start on that formula all over again, so you'll see why that line item is actually dropping, so sad but true. Starting off with the judge's salary in the office, you see the slight increases. With my people this year for the magistrates' information, I targeted either a 3% raise or $2,500 raise, whichever one was more. And in every case, that fell into about the 3-4% range anyway. So and they were all, I had no rebellions about that. That went okay. And we've been sensitive about the magistrates' preference for, flat dollar amounts. And so I think that's we're still sticking to that if we can at all. Any questions about the line items from office? The training incentive, you see there, that's utilized by Angela Comer for her training. I don't take any training incentive, nor does Kurt Wiesen. Okay. Without any questions, we'll move on to county attorney line items.
Judge, you can see what we've done here in our office is stuck to that 3%. For an office of 20 people, we have a really light impact on or try to keep as light a footprint as we can on the county budget. Most of you all know that, every meeting at fiscal court, we're turning over money. Some of that is in this, some of that goes into other pockets, but we try to do what we can as far as getting funding from other sources rather than the county budget. So we have proposed this budget, a 3% increase for the year across as a total bottom dollar. You'll see that the county attorney salary stayed the same. Like the judge said, the Department of Local Government sets amounts for elected officials. It's weird the way they do mine. It's always kind of a moving target. After doing some projections using the Consumer Price Index, which is what DLG uses for county attorneys, we believe it'll stay within that amount. Is that an accurate thing to say, Kyle? Kyle's my budget man. So that one didn't need to go up.
And for those who might not know, Steve has two jobs, basically. County prosecutor, and primary job probably, and paid by the state for that. And then works for us as our counselor.
They're both primary. Both. One is not more important than the other.
Right. And the number in this budget is what we pay him for his legal services, in addition to everything else he has to do for the judicial system here. So thank you very much, Steve. And any other questions about county attorney's office? We also want to recognize all the work that Kyle Evans does for this body, and everybody in Steve's office is terrific. Kyle really gets a lot of work put on him by this group. Sorry about that, but you're the man. All right. Okay. For the last time, Renisa is going to go over her county clerk's budget.
Bittersweet, bittersweet. Okay, so, like Judge was saying earlier, the salary line went down because it is half of my salary. The rest of this year is gonna be at my rate, and then Carrie starts January, so that will be half at her rate. And, how they do it is in steps, so, anyway. So that explains that. And also the training incentive, you'll notice, went down considerably. That's also attached to the years of service.
Yep.
So that is going to go down as well because I've already received mine for this year, and so that is strictly what she will be receiving. The deputy clerk salaries include an average raise of 5%. I give raises based on performance evaluations, and they're not the same. So not everybody gets the same across the board. It depends on performance. So that's how I do those. The tax bill preparation line includes our portion of a new tax software program that the sheriff and myself are going to be participating in. And also the county attorney is going to be using it, but it's not going to be their primary, it's just going to assist them. It's not going to be their primary way of keeping.
And that vendor's agreed to give it to us for 6 months for free to kick the tires, so.
Yeah,
We're gonna,
so.
we're gonna see if it's actually helpful to us. Kyle was a little dubious about that. but-
Yeah. The service we are receiving with our current program has diminished over the years. So it was bought out by a company, and just it wasn't the product we signed on for in the beginning. So after much investigation by the sheriff's office and my office, we have chosen a new vendor. So that is included in that. I raised the training line item because Carrie will have new clerk training that she has to attend. So that means more traveling. It's usually a 2-day meeting, but she may have additional trainings that they propose that she, go to for her new position. Do you want me to talk about the election budget now or no?
Well, I think it's pretty easy. We have
It
we
is.
have 2 elections this year, so we had to bump up all those line
Right.
items. And they are reflective of past years when we've had 2 elections, and
Right.
so,
Previous, this last budget, we only had one to deal with, but now we have 2. We'll have, of course, the general this year, and then we'll have the primary of next.
yeah.
That we have to pay for within that. It also, advertising and printing increased to include the maintenance of the Text.my.gov text messages that people who opt in for that can receive election text messages. So that includes that. And I also increased the transporting of the voting machines because of gas and, all of the companies providing the transporting are increasing their prices. So I didn't want Carrie to be short on that next election.
No problem.
So, next year, so.
It doesn't end up being all that expensive.
No, it's not. I just increased it a little bit, so.
And so everybody gets
Yeah.
that. We're big jump in the elections because we have 2 this year, so.
Yeah.
Any questions of Renisa? All right. Chip?
Sort of to piggyback on what Renisa was saying about the new software, the new software is going to me, bring us into the 21st century where we're going to be able to do things online. Taxpayers can do things online now, where instead of having to physically come into our office, they'll be able to do stuff electronically, which I think is a step in the right direction, because especially when you get down to the end and you got people that struggle to make it on time. So that's going to be a big benefit. I took my glasses off and I don't know why, because I can't see without.
Serious.
Yeah. So our salaries went up. We averaged about right at 4% across the board for all of our employees. Where you see an increase is with our maintenance, repairs, and equipment, and that's our technology. Everything that law enforcement does today it's subscription based, and every year software companies do just enough to change their product that if you don't update then you don't get the services that you need, and sometimes they even lock you out until you pay the fee. So that has increased. We're looking at getting 3 vehicles. We're looking at getting 2 road vehicles, and then we're going to replace, against Dwight's wishes, a transport vehicle for the court security. They're driving 18-year-old vans, and we're looking to get a new transport vehicle, because what we've seen in the last 2 years is now we're truly outside of the COVID remission of where they don't want to see prisoners. So we're transporting more prisoners to and from, not just here, but across the state. And sometimes we're taking 7 or 8 people to Eastern Kentucky, and the transport folks are a little nervous about the vehicles that we're sending them in. So, those are the big changes in our budget.
Why is Dwight laughing?
Well, because the explanation that you get from what's wrong with them? They make noises. What car does it rattles? What car doesn't rattle? Let's fix it. And so, and I think that we're moving. My belief, and I wasn't here when it happened. My belief is the vans that we use were cargo vans, 15-passenger vans that we've just upfitted with protective screens across windows, and
That's why they rattle.
Well, I think that we're moving into a time where I don't know that knock on wood, and I wouldn't say that they were probably the most secure. If somebody were to try to do something very nefarious as we were transporting, so I think that it's time to look at something more secure and designed to transport.
Yeah.
Especially now that we're talking about, with the jails looking at expansions, and I know that's generally for federal, but there's also probably going to be an increase in state, and then we get into transport some of those folks. And
I was just going to say, the sheriff's right as far as the increase in transports post-COVID. There for a while, it was everything on Zoom, but really from a justice standpoint, when it's a substantive hearing, the judges really want that person there to be able to talk to their attorney and more meaningfully participate. So they're still using Zoom for some things,
Yeah.
like arraignments and basic things like that. But those more substantive things, and even when they're across the state, they're saying we really need them here.
yeah, and they've increased in circuit court. They're trying different. They've developed some different hearings to try to expedite some of the process, and we're moving. A lot of times, we're moving 20 to 30 inmates throughout a day to get to these hearings. So anyway, that concludes the.
So we don't transfer federal prisoners?
Generally, no, not unless they have. Really, they don't like us touching them. They don't like us talking to them. They don't like us doing anything with them.
No Dutch.
They'll have
You want
somebody
some
else.
revenue or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Marshall.
Hey, Sheriff, on
Yes.
the maintenance, repair, and equipment.
Yep.
And then you got vehicle repair right below it. Is that, the first one, the maintenance, repair, equipment, is that outfitting a new cruiser?
No. The upfitting comes out of new vehicles. That line item, the big one, is all our technology. Like we have Cellbrite, which is a cell phone
I got you.
technology to get into. We get the search warrant for a cell phone and try to get into somebody's cell phone. It's that type of stuff
Okay.
and the vehicle repairs is
Vehicle
when a car breaks down, and
Gotcha.
or preventative maintenance.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the sheriff's line items?
Under other supplies, materials, K-9, are we not?
Our K-9 has been retired,
Okay,
and currently we're not in a position
to replace them.
to replace it right now. That's not to say that we won't, but current, we're not in a position to do that.
Anything else? Anybody else? Okay, moving on. Sheila, if you want to talk at all about your line items, pretty simple. As you may remember, we have traditionally paid the coroner the same salary as the magistrates.
All right.
So that is her salary mentioned there, and she got a little bit of bump, a 3% bump for her deputies. Anything else to add there, Sheila?
No, looks like they're all within the realm of what we've been doing, so I think they'll be okay.
I think I've noticed that the deputies have been taking more advantage of our offer of mileage reimbursements for them,
Right.
and I'm glad to see that.
Especially with gas prices, so.
Yeah. Any questions on the coroner line item? Going to the magistrates, the salaries put in here remain the same unless I hear differently. So let me know if you want to vote yourselves a raise. That has not been a typical thing, but
I think by law, that would have to be done in the first year of an election cycle.
right. So,
I think it had to be done this year.
I think it's this year.
Oh, okay.
In June?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be done before the new fiscal,
Right.
the new election, yeah.
Well, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
any of you feel differently about that, let me know. We do have a bump in advertising for fiscal court, and Brenda backed me up on this, but the legal ads now are as expensive as you've ever seen them in your lifetime. It's the only way some newspapers are making money, so they're very expensive now, and we have to use them other than potential relief from the legislature at some point. But bumped up conferences and training a little bit to reflect inflation in hotels and things like that at these conferences in Louisville and Lexington, and everything else is typical FICA increases for those salaries and health insurance increases. So, any other questions about those? The next three line items are, as you see, are the same. The PVA statutory contribution is that cost is basically relayed to us by the state, and that has stayed the same. For Brenda, and you can chime in any time you want, Brenda, the salary levels I described are there, and looking for any other differences. Anything you want to add, Brenda?
No, I think they're all pretty much the same after the 3%.
Anybody have any questions about that? Same with occupational tax administrator. Just basic bump in salary. Any questions there? Now, you will see some noticeable bumps in Brent Jacobs' line items, mostly in technology, well, basically all in technology, besides the typical, the raise we gave and those concurrent extra costs in FICA. But we want to talk a little bit about the IT services and website maintenance services increases.
Yeah, IT services, this incorporates basically us changing out our antivirus program. Being a county government, we're always under attack, so I went with the lesser known program to one of the top programs in the nation, or the world, honestly. Provides extra protection when I'm not around or asleep. If we get breached, they can go in, roll back what has happened. Just many of their features. And then with the other major update, we upgraded our email security. I did some statistics earlier. I mean, the last month we received about 100,000 emails, with about half of those being malicious. So, and Barracuda's pretty much caught about everything. So, these were expenses I thought was well worth spending the money on.
Across the country, small governments are huge targets because typically smaller governments don't have the know-how or the budget to have adequate defense And thankfully, we have a very talented guy in Brent Jacobs and the tools he needs. So I don't think these are things we can skimp on, you know. So there's some increases there. And it only gets worse every year.
And then on the website, due to the Department of Justice, we have to get our website ADA compliant. It was going to be due by April of 27, but they've extended that a year, but we're going to go on and do the upgrades to our website. Plus, we have social media archiving, which is required by open records compliance. They're not cheap expenses, but that's why those line items are going up.
Any questions on that? Okay. You see the election line items just down, we just discussed that. Obvious reason for the bump in those. We're keep going down. We have the Planning Commission line item. The Planning Commission presented to the City County Cooperative Group. This is the number that both the city and county representatives on that board agreed to, and they recommended to us. I sat in those meetings, and it was good discussion. And obviously, those covered mostly raises for staff, but they fall within our kind of requested range. And so, any questions about that? There are a couple of these that the City County Work Group vetted and recommended to us. So, questions about that? Okay, yeah. We're entering a new era in courthouse and judicial center maintenance and ownership, because we will be, I think, getting to the point where we now completely own the judicial center and will be responsible for its upkeep without any reimbursements from AOC. The good news is AOC bumped up its contribution to us for maintenance beyond just its rent payment, a couple $100,000 just to kind of ease the blow, I guess. So we'll be able to utilize that. But as you know, both the Judicial Center and the magistrates certainly know this, and Kurt Wiesen knows this, but between the Judicial Center and this building, it is a constant battle. It is like trying to mop up the ocean. Every week seems to bring a new little tweak we got to fix. I'm going to talk about that at the end of the meeting a little bit, but any increases in these line items besides just the salary tweaks reflect just more money trying to help keep this place running well and in good order. Same with the Judicial Center. You will notice that the Courthouse Custodial Service, which is our Steve Chevalier, our maintenance director, last year's budget started with a different person who came in, worked for a bit, got a higher salary. Steve just started, so that's why his salary is a little less than that, but he will soon get up to that previous salary. I'm sure he's doing a very good job. I'm really appreciate him being on board. He's working hard. And I'm sure Steve, for one, will be glad to see the increased amount of investment in keeping the Judicial Center in one piece. After his office, it's the other place that really you notice the shortcomings. So we're working on it. Any questions about the courthouse or Judicial Center line items? None? Okay, going down to Air Board, again, this was brought to the City County Cooperative Work Group there. That increased almost all salary related. It's a slight bump, and the City County Cooperative Group recommended that number to us and the city as well. Any questions about that? Okay, and now for the codes. This will be new. We've been talking for a couple years now about getting Randy some help, and we talked back and forth with him about part-time versus full-time and how that might look. And so what I'm proposing here is a full-time assistant starting out at $45,000 a year. I'm open to suggestions about that number. And concurrently in his budget, it's basically doubling everything based on that salary, as well as fuel and supplies and uniforms. We've arranged a vehicle, thank you to the road department for identifying a vehicle that they don't have quite as much use for anymore, and that will provide a vehicle for that second person to drive. I have some ideas about things that that person can focus on, along with what Randy needs from that person. Randy, anything you want to add to that?
No. Greatly appreciate it, give me an assistant.
One of the good news about the economy growing and things happening here is it's, more work for Randy. But, Randy, do you feel good with 45 to start?
I think it's a good way to try to get somebody into the program and getting all their certifications, and
You have anybody in mind?
I do not.
You mean they're not knocking down your door trying to get in?
It can be a rough job some days.
Hey, he gets in some tight spots.
I think what we can do is, if we approve that salary, put out the word, post the position, see how the applications go, see what kind of folks we're getting, or if there's interest, and if we have to adjust that based on our experience, we can reconvene about it and talk, so. But I think that's a good starting point.
And the Codes Administrators Association can also, I can share the information with them, and they'll post it throughout the state if anybody's in this area looking for a job.
Good deal.
Is that salary pretty much in line, Randy, with what
Yeah, that's,
we're doing?
for starting out, yes.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add about your line items, Randy?
No, I think that's it.
Any questions about that? Okay, down to EMA, and the, besides salary bumps, the other thing that you'll notice is a decent bump in supplies line item from 54.5 to 63.8. McKinney?
Yes.
Is that mostly related to one or two things, or sirens, or?
It's every bit of it is sirens. It's the whole thing the sheriff was talking about with subscriptions. It's a subscription-based system that runs our outdoor warning siren program.
So we're upgrading that to, first of all, it gives him more control, and he can do it remotely, doesn't have to be in the office. Number two, there's more diagnostics
Correct.
in that system, so if we do have outages, instead of having to wonder what happened and go out and find the siren and examine it, there's a little bit more information. So we thought that was a worthwhile bump there. And there's other good things happening with that system, make it more accurate, more effective, so. Anything else you want to add?
No, sir.
This is what we talked about, you talked about it in court
Yes, sir.
a few meetings ago.
Yes. Anything else on that? Okay, going down the final list there, this is kind of a amalgam of final things that don't fall under any particular department other than the whole court. Our ambulance service, as you know, we had to adjust our arrangement with Deaconess because they were losing so much money. So starting last year, the city and the county agreed to make up the difference in whatever their loss was for the year. They bill the people that they put in the ambulance, but they typically operated at a loss, so we are splitting the subsidy, and that is going to increase our costs. And for many of you who were with us before we switched to Deaconess, when Methodist Hospital was still operating the hospital and the ambulance service, you know that our annual costs were in excess of $200,000. So we're still paying less now than we did, but it will be creeping back up. Don't be surprised to see that. It will increase in coming years, I'm sure, unless they do a really, really good job of collections, which I know can be tough. But the way it works is every month or every quarter, they give us an idea of what their loss was, and we split that cost, pay the bill. You never know. It's not a consistent amount. It just depends on them. A lot of these numbers are based on year-over-year experience here. Our auditing costs will go down because next year the state will not be doing our audit. It'll be a private audit. Flip the page, because I was going to answer your question Tim. So, number one, if you flip the page at the top, contingent appropriations, so that goes from 5.45 million down to 500,000, because, again, we're taking some things out of there, not going to stick them in right away. An example, and we paid off some things. So the Water District project's done. The potential Audubon State Park Conference Center project, for which we've committed $2.5 million. When that begins to happen and the state comes to us, the state and city come to us for our portion of that, we will utilize coal severance funds. You know, we have two different coal severance funds, one that is in our budget, the LGEAF, and then there is the LGEDF, which is Economic Development Fund, which is kept in Frankfurt on our behalf. We apply for that when we want to use it. There's just under $3 million in there right now, so we will utilize that fund to pay for the conference center. So we were able to take that out of our budget for now. There's a couple other examples of that. The jail, our portion of the jail fund, both Bruce and I have talked, and we are going to wait to see when the money is actually needed and then amend that in from our reserves when it's time.
Right.
And again, we're looking at a 60-40 split. General fund handling, fiscal court handling 60%, jails 40%. So that is basically, that money's sitting in our reserve waiting to be pulled into the budget. So we didn't want to front load it and again skew the numbers, so it's hard to kind of really understand what's going on in the budget. The employee assistance program, it goes from 70,000 to 235,000. That is the free clinic. That's where that is being spent out of. So that increase is covering the cost of that. And everybody knows what that is, right? And I hope your employees are using it, and from what we hear, they really are. And I think that's a good benefit, and it's going to help us with claims. And then below that, the distributions to other government agencies goes from 0 to 238, and those two things. 200,000 of that is the natural gas project, which we'll be sending to the city or Henderson Gas when it's time. And then 38,000 is our project to help support the CTE unit at the high school, enhancing its firefighter training program. They're going to be devoting full-time firefighter from HFD to teach it, and in order to fund the expanded classes, they came to the city and county and met with the City County Cooperative Group and asked to help, and 38,000 would be our contribution. This helps us one major way. Volunteer fire departments have had challenge getting volunteers. The kids who are in the classes will finish the class if they graduate with a Firefighter 1 certification, which is the first of 2 steps to be able to ride in a truck and fight fires. Many times when volunteers approach a department now about helping out as adults, they have to pay for their own training, pay for their own Firefighter 1 certification. This will get 18-year-olds graduating from high school their Firefighter 1 when they leave, and if they don't necessarily choose to be a professional firefighter, they always, no matter what they do, can have the option of being a volunteer firefighter. And that pipeline of volunteers is something we've heard many years now that is a challenge. So that 38 grand could really accrue well to the number of volunteers who actually help out in our volunteer fire department. So that's what that 238 grand is. Any questions about that? So the sum total of that is 12.9. You see coming down from 16.8. Of course, a lot of that is taking some big ticket items out of there, making it a little bit more normal. And before we go to the road fund, does anybody have any question about the general fund? I really appreciate all the help from the elected officials, department heads. I'm going to skip over the road fund real quick and let Bruce talk about the jail fund, because he's got a skedaddle. But as you know, the jail has, for several years now, eaten only what it's killed.
Yeah.
Handled itself, paid for itself, and we're blessed. And this budget's no exception, so I'll let Bruce take it from there.
All right. Of course, my salary's set. You look at the deputies, even though we gave a raise, it's dropped because of, we didn't replace the colonel, had a colonel retire, and we didn't replace her, so we saved most of those wages. Everything else, of course, our insurance, our biggest cost is our insurance. It's gone up, the CAECO CAF is up 127,000. And you can see our employee health insurance went from 750 to $1 million. We didn't put a vehicle in because we purchased 2 vehicles this past year, this past budget, so we're in pretty good shape on vehicles. About it. Everything else is pretty normal. You got
I mean,
anything?
going from 9.87
Yeah, well,
just up to 10.
Yeah, 1.4%. This is Lori's budget. She did it. She's good. We're fortunate to have her.
Thank you.
$250,000 increase in insurance, so
Yep.
that's not, that's holding it pretty flat.
We're good.
Appreciate it very much.
Any questions of
Anybody got any
Taylor Todd?
questions?
It's too bad
Again,
they
we'll-
don't give
we'll-
Oscars
Yeah.
for jailers. You just
We're
heard an
gonna be-
Oscar or the Emmy.
We're going to be having a lot.
Medal of Honor.
We're going to have a lot more discussions about the expansion.
Yes, thank you.
Hopefully, pretty soon we'll hire a project manager, and they'll begin to bid, and we'll have a better idea of what the total cost is going to be, and then we'll be working for there. But for this basic budget, their normal budget, thank you very much. Good job. And
Yeah.
appreciate that. Let's jump back then. Did anybody else have any questions of the gang from jail?
Yeah, another board meeting, okay.
No, I will say, I met with the sheriff about 2 hours yesterday, and,
Then he said,
yeah, and
Oh,
I told
my
him,
Jail, jailer?
I mean the jailer.
yeah, we spent 2 hours.
We spent 2 hours yesterday going over a lot of things, and I thank him and Lori and the staff for all they do.
Good. All right.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thank you, Bruce.
Well, Magistrate Barry is using the WC. Anybody else need a restroom break?
Moving right along.
I will turn it over to Nick Stallings to go over the road fund line item.
All right, road fund, my recycling department, I moved all my department heads, if you will, the road supervisor, the park supervisor, and the recycling solid waste supervisor. I moved all of them up the same amount of money, so they went up almost 5%. They've been doing a really good job getting a lot of stuff done. They've been bringing in grants and things too, so we've been bringing in a lot of money that way. Now I did move up their overtime because we have solid waste, a couple solid waste days. We usually have 3 in the spring, 3 in the fall, and then they've also have helped us during the snow and ice events change blades to keep our truck drivers out on the road as much as possible. So they have came in, so we had to up that just a little bit. I had to borrow from another line item this year. Then repairs and maintenance stayed the same. Our vehicles and trailers, it stayed the same. We got to buy another dump bed trailer. Our biggest problem now is just the amount of illegal dumps we're getting. I moved my recycling part-time guy to a full-time, so that was made up in the budget by moving a couple line items around. But again, that's what we have. We usually almost have 2 people, 2 or 3 days a week. All they're doing is picking up illegal dumps. So that's the money that comes straight out of our budget with the labor and then the tipping fee. So park supervisor, same thing. I moved their people up a little over 4% for each of them. The overtime also, because I had my parks people come in. They came in during snow and ice again and worked a lot to help change blades, keep trucks going, and all that kind of deal. Then our part-time help, we got a couple people part-time help. Their number went up a little bit again to account for the raise. The parks and programs did go up slightly, actually $40,000, because we're looking to repave the fair, or actually pave the fairgrounds parking lot. That's a common source of a problem. Our guys will come in during the time our graders come in for service. We'll grade that parking lot, make it smooth, and then the next weekend comes in, people cuts donuts and things, and then we get phone calls because the parking lot's too rough. So it's becoming an over and over and over problem, where we're putting a lot of time into maintaining that parking lot that people seem to not stay out of. So that, depending on what the prices are, that's why that's got a little more in there, because we're trying to pick that up. We're also looking at putting another bathroom at Stanley Watkins Park up in the front, by the front playground area. Right now, that is currently being observed by the Green River Health Department to make sure we have proper soils to shed the septic tank water. So that's what ideal is for that line item. Then a parks equipment, of course, we're always through mowers. And that's typically what that was for mowers, trailers, and trucks. Then the next ones is my salary. I didn't go up that much. Then we had then our excess weight damage came off from the other grant. Then road supervisor, again, I brought him up as much as I did the other people, 5%. Then all of our equipment operators, equipment truck operators, heavy truck operators, I brought all them up the same amount. We've been shuffling people around. A lot of our guys have been moving up from truck drivers up to equipment, up to heavy equipment. So we've had 3 or 4 retirements this year. So we've been trying to pick those numbers up to keep them high, because obviously the heavy equipment operators are the ones that out there ditching, potholing, mowing, those kind of things, grading. So we've got to keep that number high, or people don't think that things are getting done. Then the clerk also the road clerk also went up. And then contracted construction went up a significant amount. That is to account for the FEMA rock. With our FEMA, we had the FEMA damage. It's a 2-year turnaround on that. Now we're running a rock out of that line item, so we have to put the rock down, repair the roads, and then we get reimbursed. But the federal FEMA is you pay the money, they come out, look at it, and then get reimbursed. So that's got to come out of something. So I put that into contract construction, since we had so much of it held over from last year to this year. Also, this is mowing our portion of I-69. We have the 60 interchange is the county's portion to mow. So this adds that money in there for a mowing contractor to get all that mowed there on the 3 roundabouts and the right-of-way area. Bridge construction stay the same, and it may not be used this year with that grant that I received from the federal grant it's going to replace 2 bridges. So that number may not even get picked up, but I usually keep that in for failures we have as the season goes on. Like we just repaired one on Court and Green Lake Road, so that's where I pull that money out of, is out of the bridge construction. Fuel went up, as y'all can tell. We had some significant rises this last fuel round we did, and if we don't see things better by our next fuel draw, which will be the middle of July, that's why I put that in there extra, because we buy off-road diesel, on-road diesel, and then gas. So that's why that went up. Our repairs and maintenance are staying right on task. They're not moving any. Our emulsion, our hot mix is for our pothole machines, is staying right on. It's went up slightly, but we have a little bit of excess there, so we'll be okay with that. Our salt did go up, because we are now paying $134 a ton for salt, which, if y'all doing the math, that's almost twice of what we pay for asphalt. So one lasts 20 years, one lasts for 20 minutes. That's just the way the salt, it works. We're a little piece of the pie. I'm trying to work with the state, because CAECO is who we used to go through, all the counties of Kentucky went through. They have abolished their they're auctioned now and they're getting out of the game. So I have talked with the state and trying to get on their state bid price because, you know, they get 50,000 tons of salt. So I'm trying to get on their bid price because it's a bigger piece of the pie. And with that, I mean, I think they're getting salt somewhere around $110 a ton. So a big cost savings, but that way we're able to pick up more in our dome. We got our dome rebuilt last year, so we've got a good dry place to hold our salt. Or the SS4A grant, that was moved over to the state grants, as you all know. The excess weight permit, the last one we have will not come out of this fiscal year. And then everything else is the same. There's not a whole lot of change besides all the CAECO insurances, and my machinery stayed the same because I've already got that allocated for that tandem dump truck to come in, which was approved in court, 6, 7, 8 months ago. So it's supposed to have a delivery date of the 1st of August. So that's already accounted for.
Thank you, Nick. You'll notice, and I'll talk about this next, in the blacktop and rock line items, $50,000 each. Those are kind of placeholder amounts. We're going to talk about the rest of the money here in LGEA, but any other questions of Nick?
I just want to point out, I know the fiscal court knows this, but in an election year, the road fund, you can't expend more than 65% of the budget before the end of the first half of the year, basically. Apparently, there were counties in eastern Kentucky that were blowing through all of it right before election years and leaving new fiscal courts with nothing. So I know Nick has budgeted for that and is aware of that statute, but that sometimes comes into play because of seasons. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of it.
And actually,
that's why I broke up that's why the asphalt got broke up. So
well, how coal severance works is going to keep us from having it even.
That's my biggest line item is.
Make sure to note that. That's
there
there at 68.310.
So that is a good segue into the LGEA fund. Turn over the page there. So you know that we just approved the recommendations for a lot of the nonprofits that are listed here. So those amounts should be familiar. If you'll go down towards the bottom though, where it says resurfacing county roads, 1.45 million. So I know that makes Tim Southard smile. So that means that between that line item, which is obviously being funded by coal severance, along with the 50,000 in both blacktop and rock in the road budget, that's 1.55 million for both blacktop and rock. So talk with Nick, that seems like a good number. He's also got that FEMA money in order to spread rock with as well. So, and to Steve's point, because coal severance is paid quarterly, we still have to get a feel for that rhythm. So I've asked Nick to just plan on splitting the paving seasons between fall and spring, so we always have enough money coming into that coal severance line item to cover whatever he wants to do. And there won't be a case where all the paving can be done in October because we won't have all the money. But we will between fall and spring. So I think ideally, Nick, we're just splitting it up about 50-50, half in the fall and half in the spring.
That's kind of how we did this year. So,
yeah. So getting back up towards the top, a couple things you notice. There's a bump there for volunteer fire departments, up to 14,000 for each one. And that's in addition to the money we just approved to them. And towards the end of next year, if we have a little left over in ARPA, we could do it again if you wanted to. That's something to think about if we get the okay on that. The grain bin training facility money is still in there. That's also for volunteer fire department training. We should be taking this out to bid. The city will. They're going to handle the bidding and the construction management. Middle of June, maybe going in July, and then we'll start building, hopefully break ground for the end of the calendar year. And based on the conversations we had with Jesse Johnston at J&B Mechanical, $300,000 should get it. So, we will just hang in there and see what the final number is, but that project carries on. Our 911 contribution is going down a bit because last year it increased to help them pay for their new CAD system. That was done, so the number comes down a little bit. The animal control number, that was brought to the city-county cooperative group, that $372,995, mostly that's about increasing wages. We've got a good group of animal control officers right now. It's a thankless job, and we want to keep them, and so that was what they asked for. We took out of that two things you might know. If you sat in on the United Way committee, they asked in their animal control budget for rabies shots. That's actually a function of the Humane Society, not animal control. So we asked them to apply. I think they got approved, if I'm not, because it's right just down just a couple line items down. There it is, Humane Society dogs, 1,500. I think that's for rabies and other things like that. So, and then they also needed a truck. We're going to take care of that this fiscal year. So took that out of their budget, which leaves us at the 372.9 number. And again, that was vetted by the City County Cooperative Group. Landfill solid waste stays the same. That's the experience we're getting right now. It hasn't breached that 130 number in a while, and that's good. The Canoe Creek number went up from 45 to 87.5, and Tim still serves on Flood Mitigation Board. That is for two things. Number one, increased mowing. They kind of split years. Some years they spend more than others, and this is a year where they're going to spend more. And we're also letting the Flood Mitigation Board handle the mowing of the two detention basins that were created by I-69's new route to hold water because the drainage patterns changed, and this is our contribution to helping make sure that they can get that mowing done. And they're going to contract that out.
Going to contract the mowing out. The ditch services was actually purchased equipment to start kind of doing that work ourselves, which...
On the detention basins?
Yes.
Yeah. Looking here, the soil conservation number, just so you know, we went from 45 to 55. You remember they came and asked us for more money to help with Highland Creek, and we gave them 28 grand up front. We've set aside an extra 10 in case they need it next year, and they sounded like they would.
So the Union County, Union Town, city, they're having trouble with, so Highland comes out right at the Henderson County side of the riverfront. And the sediment coming out of the creek is causing issues with their loading dock where they load grain from CGB and where they put in boats and stuff on the riverfront. They're looking at making some changes where it comes out of the creek to try to make that flow differently. So I foresee them going to need more money to work on that exit of that creek. So that's probably a good increase because I think that ask is coming.
Okay.
Tim, just to add to that, I spoke to one of the members of it, and he was very appreciative of the extra. He said that may get them through this year.
Right.
May get them through this year. Yeah.
That creek, there's a lot of water runs through that creek, and a big part of our county drains it.
So from there on down, it's almost all the nonprofits. I did put in $200,000 more for Habitat for Humanity. Remember we said we were going to experiment with that, see how it goes, try it again next year if it went well. I think it's going well. The Habitat for Humanity leadership there kind of put a guilt trip on the...
Well, and also, Judge, I think we've kind of threw out there that they need to look at the county.
Right, these are in the county.
Habitat houses.
Yeah, these are in the county. And especially in Corydon where they described the potential 4-house lot. And so I put that in there because we kind of intimated that we were happy with it so far, and it was a 2-year experiment anyway, so I left that in there. And I'll take you all the way down to contingent appropriations going from 217 to 321. I said the goal here was to have LGA revenue pay for all of LGA's expenses. That contingency bump is just the leftover, after we paid for everything else in these line items. Whatever money was left over in that revenue goal, I just put in contingency. So then, obviously, if things change, we want to do a little something different with these line items, we have some money to work with if we need to. Okay, any questions about LGA?
I'm just going to put a bug in everybody's ear because it's going to be, at some point in the near future, the radio system, the 911 radio system is going to have to be enhanced. And for those of you that weren't here 10 years ago in 2015,
I have PTSD.
yeah, 2015, it was a $10 million project.
Right.
And Motorola told us at that time that this is probably a 15-year project, and we're coming up on, there's been no discussion, but I want to put it on the radar because when it comes, it's going to be a huge ticket. It's going to be a big number, and we're going to have to contribute something to that, but I don't want it to, I sort of want to talk about it, just as a simple reminder, and this is a good time for me to say it every year, because at some point, the city of Jordan are going to come and say, we're needing to.
Well, I know Master Starks myself are pretty much in tune with a lot of that, with City County Co-op
Yeah,
as well.
it hadn't bubbled up yet, but it will eventually.
Yeah.
And this is to address some of the issues with dropouts.
Yeah.
Well,
Just the whole
the whole system. Unfortunately, as Brent was talking about, when you start talking about technology, companies are great to say that things are end of life.
Oh,
Which,
yeah.
what end of life means to me as a layperson means, it's broke, it's dead, it's never going to work. Well, in the technology world, they say, no, end of life just means we're not going to support it anymore. It still can work, but if it breaks, you're on your own. There's not going to be warranty, and all of the portable radios are reaching that end of life. So, with that being said, all the volunteer radios and there's a lot of equipment out there.
Technology's always evolving.
That are hitting that. They're still working and they still function, but trying to get support for it. But I felt obligated to just throw that out just to let people know that if it starts, if there's conversations, it wasn't like, we didn't know anything. I didn't have, because it'll be, again, it was $10 million. Actually, it was a little less than that because we had a CAD system, but it'll be like everything else in the world, everything going up exponentially. So,
If I can add something too, in the same vein, we've got 4 outdoor warning sirens now that if they were to go down today, there's no parts for them. So keep that in mind as well as we move forward. Right now, they're working great, but if they were to die, you're looking at about a $38,000 hit to replace a siren. And we have 4 that don't have parts available.
All the same age, I guess.
All the same age from the very first time that we did sirens 30 years ago.
Right.
But they've been going 30 years, which is great.
Right.
I'm waiting for that call.
well, again, well, exactly. And I just, openly, I wanted to mention it because, again, it's coming. Just a matter of when.
Along those same lines, Henderson Water Utility has a intake system on the Green River where Big Rivers was. And they shared the intake when Big Rivers and the city got along. When they did not get along, Big Rivers forced HWU to move its intake and take care of its own situation down there. So HWU rigged up a barge, put their intake mechanisms on the barge, and that's what they use to this day. It was a Band-Aid to begin with, and it's still there, and they need to permanently fix that. That feeds the South Water Treatment Plant, which services all the industries in the south part of the county, especially Tyson, which is the largest water user. Any development in 4-star will require even more capacity, and so fixing that intake on the Green River is going to be a must. They're beginning to really price it now and work on grants because it's going to be a $10 million ticket too. And at a meeting yesterday at 4-Star Industrial Park where Bart Bowles of HW presented, looked at me up there in the corner in the Zoom call and said, and we will be coming to the county.
Of course.
At some time in the next 12 months. So that will be a multi-million-dollar ask. Maybe not multi, but 7 figures at least. And what I would say is, thankfully, for all the hard work you all have done over the years, we are in a position to do what's needed. Especially those things of which we have very little choice, would not want to try to trade away. Yeah. So, and that system feeds the water district too, which feeds all the homes down that way. And so, in addition to the CAD system, be looking for that. Any other questions about LGEA?
I have a comment, but back to what Nick said about our roads. 8 years ago, when I was elected, we had a meeting with Bill Hubiak, and our road system was C or below. And now we don't. 8 years later, we can't qualify for state grants. So you said, well, it'll make me happy to see that 1.4, but that 1.4 is moving the needle for us. And
Absolutely.
It's definitely, we've made leaps and bounds compared to where we were.
Yep.
So
It's true. And you've been a driver of that.
I can be a squeaky wheel if I need to be.
Okay. We'll go through the last of these others are pretty simple. The state grants, as you know, the state and federal grants are money in, money out. Whatever's on one side of the ledger is on the other side of the ledger. Economic development, these are our normal contributions. HED is 50,000, BridgeLink 10, and we are carrying over 40,000 in contingency appropriations just in case, because there are often economic development things that come up, as you well know, that it's nice to have that money ready for if we need it. Again, opioid settlement fund is, we know we are basically having now 2 ongoing costs. We are supporting the STOP program at the Warm Center and Beacon of Western Kentucky, which is court advocacy group. So those 2 things are the only ones on the ledger right now that are ongoing in the opioid fund. We'll just have to see what else pops up. See the clerk permanent storage expenditures, whatever. We budget 45, it's but whatever Renee thinks she needs that year with that money. Health insurance, again, 3.15 max budget, but we've been under that consistently. And we do now have a nice rainy day fund for that in case we have a bad year, because as you know, we're self-insured health insurance. We basically run what amounts to a $3 million health insurance company. And our ARPA fund distributions, we do not have, you see we have a blank for reserve for contingent appropriation. We're going to wait till the very last minute to plug in that number there to see what we have interest left over in the account, right? So it'll just be on the order of a few $1,000s. The last page there is a summary. And Kyle, I don't believe you've had to touch the keyboard once yet. Thoughts, questions?
There's just a clerical error, or I guess grammatical error, on the state grant, federal grants. We went through the very first part of the meeting.
Revenue?
Yeah. Federal. That flop
I got it.
should be flat. It's flat.
Flap.
It's
It
land
fell.
access. I don't want the federal people to look and say, crap, flop. The flop grant. So, yeah.
Hey, that was after talking to you, that's why I did that.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Flop.
And all that's all you can find?
That's all right.
Good catch.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts for the magistrates? We can, I'll let you examine this some more after we split. If you feel like we need to schedule another workshop to continue anything, we certainly can. It sounds like the department heads, unless you have any, serious questions for them, they are satisfied with their budgets, yes? Feel like they can move forward with those? So unless there is any other discussion, for now, we can adjourn, or if there's anything you'd like to throw out? Or we can, again, get with me and let me know, and we can schedule another workshop. But any other?
Judge, I didn't see a need for another one personally.
I don't either.
I mean, we've had this at home for
Right.
a week, so, yeah.
You go cross-eyed after a little while.
Any other thoughts? Well, I will work with Brenda to see if we can have this all ready to go for first reading, the second meeting in May. And then, but between now and then, if something arises, we can either handle it in a regular fiscal court meeting or call another workshop, and we'll discuss it, so.
Sounds good.
Okay. That's it. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion is second. All those in favor can leave.